Okay, let us, you've been having kirtan, enthusiastic kirtan, my gosh, for a little while. Let us just get into the subject matter. Yes. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Yes. Oh, Krishna, Krishna. Oh, thank you kindly. Who made this actually?
Vraja Vinodini.
Sorry?
Vraja Vinodini.
Vraja?
Vinodini.
Oh, really? Okay, thank you. Yes, so, well, we've got to read it's really like, well, it's called a dedication, actually. Let's just read that. We can recite it together as we did last night. Well, I'll do one line, then you respond, and I'll do the next line, you respond like that. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano Saddharma Samstapako.
Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Saddharma Samstapako.
Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo.
Lokanam hitakarino tribhuvane manyo sharanya karo.
Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko.
Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko.
Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Sri Jiva Gopalako.
Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako.
Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Sri Jiva Gopalako.
Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they're worth taking shelter of because they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Shri Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. So devotees, yes, we're continuing on with our study of the six Goswamis, and particularly at this point, Srila Sanatan Goswami. We discussed quite a bit last night, and well, we'll just continue on because Sanatan Goswami is a person of whom there are many different pastimes, stories, different events, and very sort of educational things which happened. Some very educational things which happened. Right, yes, so last night we were talking about, well, we finished up. Do you remember what we finished up with? We finished up at a very exciting point. Do you remember that?
Goswami was going away from the jailer and he sent his assistant away.
Sanatan Goswami was going away from the jailer, yeah. That was a little bit before actually. And then he went and met with Lord Chaitanya in Varanasi. And so the point where we got to, do any of you remember actually?
At the house of Haridas Thakur. He was living with Haridas Thakur.
Yeah.
Something was supposed to happen afterwards.
Yeah, the swords.
Yes, that's it. You're getting there. You're getting there. You know what is said? Let me just tell you an interesting piece of general information. That people who do research into how seminars are conducted and the results and the impacts that seminars have on their audiences, they say that if you just sit there and listen, then you may recall in the future up to about 7% of what you heard. And just by our experience now, just 24 hours later, or 23 hours, we see people were not ready. And it took a while to sort of awaken the memory faculty. But then they say, if you take notes, really take notes like a student just writing actively, really trying to absorb the information. So they say you may remember up to 50%. Taking notes makes a big difference. And then, if you take notes, but then you go over the notes regularly from time to time, then they say you may recall up to 90%, 95, even 97%. You can really recall a lot if you do like that. So here, I'm presenting this seminar, and you know what devotees are like, because you're all devotees, so you know what you're like. Devotees often, they come on Sunday or they come any time when there's some program, and they sit there very nicely during the class and That's very good. But oftentimes they don't really recall much. Yeah. And even there may be a sort of tendency, rather than to look upon it all as like a real educational experience from which we're really meant to learn something which we then take inside ourselves and just, becomes a part of our lives. But it may be seen as something along the lines of entertainment or something. Something like that. So, but here we're trying to educate you, because you're all nice devotees. You're all intelligent people. But we should try and learn these things, because these people, the 6 Goswamis, they're such important persons in our line. And, like a couple of the stories I mentioned last night, and what I'm going to mention today, if you can remember some of these things, then they will really they'll help you for the future. Because there are principles there and like devotional standards there, which if we can imbibe and learn and just really take within our hearts, then they'll be quite foundational in our progressive lives in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, so where we had got to then last night was that Sanatana Goswami, he had gone down, he had met Lord Chaitanya in Varanasi. Lord Chaitanya told him, go to Vrndavan, where he had just come from. And Lord Chaitanya said, I am going to Puri, Jagannath Puri, because he was based there, he had been for quite some years. I'm going to go down there, but after some time, I will send some sort of communication to you that you should come and join me in Jagannath Puri for a while. So, but in the meantime, you go to Vrndavan and do your, certain things that he should do there. Uncover different pastime places of Lord Krishna. Then write, not just write books, but gather together information and knowledge about Krishna consciousness, and then systematize it, get it all together and present it in a systematic way, rather than, sort of jumping. One point is here, next point is there, then another point you go back. It's sort of around and about. But systematize the knowledge for the benefit of the people in general. And you know what Lord Chaitanya was thinking? Do you know what Lord Chaitanya was thinking at that point? I'll tell you what, one thing at least he was thinking. He was thinking, you must systematize this knowledge so all the devotees in Newcastle and Sunderland too can really learn it and take it in. You may think that's a joke. In a sense, it sort of is, but in another sense it's not, because he was thinking of the world, and Newcastle is part of the world. So directly or indirectly, he was thinking of this knowledge should be gathered, and then the people in Newcastle should be able to utilize it nicely without getting confused by sort of a an unsystematic presentation. All right, so anyway, yes, so he told him, go there, uncover pastime places, create some temples or some shrines at least on those places of pastimes, and then gather together knowledge of scripture and systematize it and tell the world, start spreading this message of what is Vrndavan and what is Krishna consciousness. So off went Sanatana Goswami that way to Vrndavan. Rupa Goswami had just gone shortly before. And Lord Chaitanya went that way down to Jagannath Puri. So anyway, like we said, after a while, Lord Chaitanya sent some sort of communication. Perhaps, I don't know if he was using WhatsApp, Telegram, or just simple SMS. But one way or another, he sent communication to Sanatana Goswami. Okay, now is the time, come and join me in Jagannath Puri for a while. And come down, join me, and then after a while, I'll send you back to Vrndavan. But for the time being, please come and join me. So Sanatana Goswami, he headed off from Vrndavan to Puri, and he was just in such a rush to get there that he just basically ignored his health and anything like that. So on the way he contracted a quite severe skin condition where there were like oozing sores, and it was really a bit of a ghastly situation. Even sometimes there were little like creatures getting into the sores, and I don't want to go into it too much, but it was bad. And he arrived there in Jagannath Puri in that condition. And I think we reached that point last night. And he was staying with Haridas Thakur, that's right, by Lord Chaitanya's arrangement, because Sanatana Goswami was effectively, if not actually, but at least he himself accepted the position of an outcast, because even though he was born in a very high Brahmin family and educated as such for some time, but in his adulthood he had become employed by the Muslim rulers, as we explained last night and the night before, the Muslim rulers, and he adopted many of the Muslim sort of practices and things, not like eating meat, but the clothing, physical appearance, and various things like that. Yeah. So, but now he arrived there. So therefore he felt he shouldn't go into the Jagannath temple because they were very strict about who they let in and who they don't let in. So he felt he shouldn't go in. And Lord Chaitanya gave him residence with Haridas Thakur, who was born in a Muslim family, and on that basis was not allowed in to the Jagannath temple. So that the thing is, he had this serious skin condition, and you know what he decided? Sanatana Goswami decided, this is where we got to last night, that this skin condition is too bad He'd had it like for months by this time, and it wouldn't go away. It is too bad, and it's just too disturbing. So I am going to commit suicide and get free from this just detestable material body which I have. So that was his decision, to commit suicide during the Jagannath Rath Yatra festival. His idea was to just go out there in front of Lord Jagannath's chariot and just throw himself under the wheels. You know that in Puri, they have these big chariots. They have quite not just 4 wheels, but 4 sets of wheels. And you go under one of those sets of wheels and that's the end. Yeah. Vrndavan. See you later. That's the end. So he thought, that's what I'll do. So that was his determination. But one day, when Lord Chaitanya had come, what's that thing here? Lord Chaitanya had come to visit Haridas Thakur and Sanatana Goswami, because their place was quite close to where Lord Chaitanya was staying. So he would go and see them every day. So one time he went there and he started a conversation with Haridas Thakur, kind of, you could say, ignoring Sanatana Goswami, who was present. He's addressing Sanatana Goswami, but by speaking to Haridas Thakur. And he said that, actually first he spoke to Sanatana, said, "My dear Sanatana, if I could attain Krishna by committing suicide, I would certainly give up millions of bodies without a moment's hesitation." Without a moment's hesitation. Millions of bodies, if he thought he could attain Krishna in that way. But he explained that is not how we attain Krishna. We attain Krishna through devotional service. And then he turned to Haridas Thakur and said a very interesting thing. He said, "My dear Haridas, hear me. This gentleman," means Sanatana Goswami, "this gentleman wants to destroy another person's property." And then he explained to Sanatana that there are many goals and many things I want to achieve through utilizing your body. Like we mentioned, uncovering holy places, gathering up information about the bhakti culture. Yes. And a person who is entrusted with someone else's property cannot distribute it or use it for his own purposes. So he tells Haridas Thakur, tell this Sanatana Goswami, don't do such an unlawful thing. So Sanatana Goswami felt very embarrassed that even though he had not said anything about this plan he had, but Lord Chaitanya had understood. Yeah. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna has telepathic abilities, if you know what I mean. He can read your mind. He can read our minds better than we can read our own minds. So therefore he understood what Sanatan was thinking of doing. So then Lord Chaitanya left, and Haridas Thakur glorified Sanatan Goswami. He said, just see, you are such an elevated person. Lord Chaitanya has accepted your body as his body. Yes, you're such a special devotee. And as it happened, Sanatan Goswami, so they had one of these mutual glorification pastimes of pointing out how special each one was. Haridas Thakur pointed out how special Sanatan Goswami was because Lord Chaitanya had accepted Sanatan's body as his property. So Sanatan Goswami, he then responded by saying that the Lord's mission is to spread the chanting of the holy names, and you are chanting 300,000 holy names a day, and therefore you are the Nam Acharya. You are the Acharya of the process which Lord Chaitanya has descended for. So you're very special, Haridas Thakur. And he made a very important point. Some behave well. Some people behave well, but do not preach Krishna consciousness. Whereas others preach, but they do not behave very well. You know, we see this sometimes. But you, Sanatan Goswami said to Haridas Thakur, you simultaneously perform both activities in relation to the holy name, by your personal behavior and by your presenting Krishna consciousness to people. And Sanatan Goswami said, therefore, you are the spiritual master of the entire world. So then, you know what happened. There's a whole sequence of events actually. And if you want to look this up, if you have access to Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is all of this, and some more, which I'm going to describe now. This is all in the Antya Leela, chapter 4. You can find all of these, what we've talked about so far this evening, in Antya Leela, chapter 4. So then, one day, Lord Chaitanya came over to visit Haridas Thakur and Sanatan Goswami. And Lord Chaitanya started glorifying Sanatan Goswami. There are two verses, most important verses here. Well, Lord Chaitanya came to embrace Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami wouldn't allow him. And anyway, it's a bit of a long story. I'll tell you the story. Well, let me tell you the story first. One day, Sanatan Goswami arrived at Lord Chaitanya's place. And Lord Chaitanya saw him and noticed that his feet had blisters underneath them. So he asked Sanatan Goswami, why have your feet got blisters? And Sanatan Goswami said, because I took the long way to come to you. I went around along the beach and came up. And when I was walking on the beach, the sand was very hot and my feet got burnt, so now there are blisters under my feet. So Lord Chaitanya said, well, why did you take that long way? You can just walk straight along the main street, past the entrance of the main big Jagannath temple, and you'll be here in a few minutes, and you won't hurt your feet at all. But why did you take this long route? It's like 5 times longer, and you burnt your feet. Why are you doing it? Why did you do that? And so Sanatana Goswami explained, you see, I've got all these sores on my body, oozing sores. They're just really gross and unpleasant. And if I was to walk, take that route, the direct route, I would go right past the main entrance to the Jagannath temple. And at the entrance, around the entrance, all the pujaris and the devotees who do service in the temple, they're all coming and going and in and out and rushing around like that, doing their duties for serving Jagannath, because they have there's like 1,200 people. How many people do we have, running the worship here in our temple? Not so many. There they have 1,200 doing all the different things in regards to cutting the food, getting the vegetables, cutting, then cooking, and then all the different things involved with the altar itself. It's a really whole big operation. So Sanatana Goswami said, you get all these pujaris and others rushing in and out. And if I just walk past, some of them will touch me. It's just unavoidable. And they'll get some of this oozing stuff on their bodies, and they may not notice it. And when they go back inside, because their bodies will now be like severely contaminated, but they may not notice. So it'll be an offense to the deities. And I will be the cause of the offenses. So therefore I decided not to go past the entrance, but to take the long route around by the beach. And if you know Jagannath Puri, you know it's a pretty long way to go. It's probably 10 times longer or even more. Yeah. So therefore he said, therefore I decided not to walk past the entrance and rather take the long way, even though I knew my feet would get burnt as they did, but that's okay. At least I didn't commit any offense. Then Lord Chaitanya spoke these 2 verses, Antya-lila chapter 4, verse 129 and 130. Yadyap yo tumi hao jagat pavana Thomas Sparshe Pavitrahaya Deva Muni Gana Tatapi Bhakta Swabhava Maryada Rakshana Maryada Palanahaya Sadhura Bhushana, which means, my dear Sanatana, although you are the deliverer of the entire universe, and although even the demigods and great saints are purified by touching you, it is the characteristic of a devotee to observe and protect the Vaishnava etiquette. Maintenance of the Vaishnava etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. This is a very important point we should learn, that we have to maintain the standard, the proper Vaishnava standards in our lives. it's really important because Vaishnav etiquette, the Sanskrit term, is sadachar. The Sanskrit term is sadachar. Sad meaning eternal, and achar basically meaning activities or standard of activities. Sadachar. So sadachar basically indicates the standards of activities of people who live in the spiritual world. Yeah. And here, now we're trying to learn to become devotees by chanting and doing all the different things we do. But learning the etiquettes, what to do and what not to do, is a very important part of the whole program. Yeah. It's not, of course, chanting is the first thing. And some deity worship, some study of scripture, cleaning the temple and so on. These are all important parts of devotee life. But along with all of that, we have to learn how to conduct ourselves rather than conduct ourselves just in ways which we learnt from our upbringing, which, with all due respect, is often not so good. There's one funny little story I can tell you. When Queen Victoria, would you believe, the Empress of India, supposedly, when she visited India, someone put on a special, dinner, big thing for her. Everyone had dinner, and at the end, everyone was given a little bowl with lemon water for a finger bowl, they call them finger bowls, for cutting some of the fatty stuff off your fingers. Get the idea? You swish your fingers around in this finger bowl with lemon water, which is acidic, and it cuts through the fats and whatever of the food. So our Queen Victoria, she was not so up on the etiquettes. So what she did, she just picked it up and drank it instead of cleaning her fingers. And all the other people who were there, right around her sitting, they saw what she did. In order not to embarrass her, they also picked up their little bowls and drank, although they knew what it was actually for cleaning the fingers. So, actually Lord Chaitanya goes on to say, if one transgresses the laws of etiquette, people make fun of him, and thus he is vanquished in both this world and the next. By observing the etiquette, you have satisfied my mind. Who else but you could show this example? Having said that, you know what Lord Chaitanya did? He grabbed Sanatana Goswami, oozing sores and all, and just embraced him. And so, on the Lord's body was some of the stuff from the sores. And Sanatana Goswami was just dedicated. Chaitanya Charitamrita says he was greatly distressed by this whole experience. And then a couple of days later, without going through too much detail, Lord Chaitanya grabbed him again and embraced him again a second time very firmly. embraced him. And when he let go of Sanatan, suddenly all the sores just disappeared on the spot. And his body just became, completely whole and just glowing like a golden effulgent colour. Yes, so Sanatana Goswami and Lord Chaitanya, they were very close. And, like I mentioned last night, in the Madhya Lila there are 5 chapters of Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami. There's only 1 chapter of Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Rupa Goswami. It's an interesting point. It is an interesting point. And they were very close. They were just extremely close. And eventually, though, Lord Chaitanya told Sanatana Goswami, so now you go back to Vrndavan and you continue on with the work I've given you there. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, the scene of separation that took place, when Sanatana Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took leave of each other is so piteous that it cannot be described herein. Just so deeply, transcendentally emotional when they sort of parted ways and Sanatana headed back to Vrndavan. So piteous that it cannot be described. Because of the depth of their relationship. So off went Sanatana Goswami then back to Vrndavan. And when he arrived in Vrndavan, he started, particularly at this time, coming back after spending time with Lord Chaitanya, he started the program which he is particularly famous for. That program is parikrama. Parikrama means walking around, visiting the pastime places and different places related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he was going all around Vraj Mandala, but particularly he was going all around Govardhan Hill. How many of you have done Govardhan Parikrama? Done it? You haven't done it? That's terrible. Anyway, particularly go around Govardhan Hill. And if you know much about Govardhan Hill, there are 2 parikramas. One is the one we normally do, which is 23 kilometers or so. You just basically follow the hill. But then the other parikrama, the long parikrama, it's more than twice the length. You go out from the hill to different places, like Surabhi Kund is there, Mukarai is there, Gauri Tirtha, Shandak, Gulal Kund, all these places, they're outside, even some distance outside the hill. And it's probably a good 50 kilometers, but he would do it every day, barefoot. So, and because he's moving around so much, he would stay overnight in certain places Therefore, Sanatana Goswami there's a number of his bhajan kutirs, place where he would stay sometimes in different parts of Vrajmandala. Rupa Goswami, there's the one at the Radha Damodar temple, then there's the one at Tirkadamba. And he used to stay at a place called Nandaghat, which is just north, moving up the Yamuna a bit from Vrndavan. But not so much, but more at Radha Damodar and Tirkadamba. So you find his bhajan kutirs at Sanatana Goswami's, at the Madan Mohan temple in Vrndavan, then at Pavan Sarovar, Nandagram, at Gokula. At Gokula there's a bhajan kutir. Manasi Ganga, there's a bhajan kutir, Manasi Ganga. And at Shamakund, there's a bhajan kutir of Sanatana Goswami. Because he was moving around so much, and he would stay overnight here and there. So these bhajan kutirs would be there. And Sanatana Goswami, so he was more or less constantly doing parikrama of one sort or another, either just the whole Vrajmandala, or go downhill, the short or the long parikrama. He was just immersed in parikrama. And he would visit the villages on the way. And so he developed relationships with all the village people around Vrajmandala. And Bhakti Ratnakara gives a description like of a typical time he would stop in one of the villages and how the village people would respond and what would happen while he was there with the village people. Listen to this. Yes. So when he would come, when he would leave one village to go to another, all the village people from the village he was leaving, they would all follow him. And whether it was young people, old people, they would all cry and just become overwhelmed. And Sanatana Goswami would cry and solace them and try and pacify them and send them back to their homes in the village that he had just left and assure them, I will be back. Don't worry, I will be back in a little while. So only after they all stopped crying and turned around and went back to their homes, would he actually leave and go to the next village. So as he was approaching the next village, the people would see him. Here comes Sanatana. He knew everyone personally, individually. So as he was approaching, the young, the old, the men, the women, they'd all call out, here he comes Sanatana. And they would all come out and welcome him, just as a poor man experiences unlimited happiness if he suddenly obtains a valuable jewel. So the Brijvasis felt unlimited happiness by seeing Sanatana. The old men and women, the very old men and women, they all treated Sanatana as if he was their own son. Some of them would address him and say, my dear son, how did you pass so many days forgetting us? Thinking about you, we were practically dead. And speaking words like this, they would all look on the face of Sanatana Goswami. Then the men, not the old men and old ladies, but just the sort of adult men, women, and the youths from that village, they all had brotherly affection for Sanatana Goswami. So one of them said, my dear brother, how are you? You must have forgotten us completely. How could you become so cruel? So in this way they spoke with tears in their eyes. All the boys and girls came to touch the feet of Sanatana. He tried to stop them, but he was unable. Then the married ladies staying at a bit of a distance would just watch Sanatana. So just by seeing Sanatana, they became so absorbed in greeting him and speaking to him, and it was just such an overwhelming experience. They forgot to offer obeisances and other formalities. And they just embrace him, take his hand, lead him along, and then they take him under one of the village trees. These villages, even nowadays, many of them, they still have a place. Usually it's by the main kund, where there's a temple and gathering place and so on like that. So they would sit him down under a sacred tree. Everyone, the whole village would stop. Whatever people were doing, they'd just stop. And they'd sit around him under a tree. And then different people would bring yogurt, butter, milk, and feed him, prasadam, and then they'd sit with him. So there was like a darshan program, if you know what I mean. People would line up to have like individual audiences with him. And he knew everyone. He would ask, how are your children doing? Have you had any new children? Did your son or your daughter get married? Where were they married? What was their education? How many cows do you have? When I was last here, one of your cows was going to give birth. Did she give birth? Was it a male or a female calf? All these things he would inquire about. How are your grains coming along? What's your daily routine? What is your health? What is your state of mind? Like this, he'd speak to everyone. And gradually, every single one of the village people would have a meeting with him. And then that would be complete. So then what would they do? Then the program would start. The Krishna Katha and the Kirtan program. And it would go the entire night. Then early in the morning, as soon as Sanatana Goswami had finished his bath and other duties, everyone would come again to meet him. They bring milk and yogurt. Sanatana would accept it. And then he would leave the village. But when he would leave, as we mentioned, they would all come with him. The whole village would go with him. and then he'd have to turn them all back. As we mentioned, some of the bigger villages, he would stay for 2 days or two nights. So they'd have a program. He arrives in the afternoon. They have a program all night. Then they have a program all the next day. And a program all the second night. And then he'd leave. So this is Sanatana Goswami. It's amazing. Seeing Sanatana, all the villagers felt so much joy, it cannot be described. Yes. And they would speak to him in distress. If you can remain here for a few days, it would be very auspicious. Please accept our plea. Don't be cruel to us. Please give up your habit of leaving in the early morning and in this way save our lives. And then they would all cry. And often he would agree to stay an extra day. So Sanatana Goswami was counted or considered the spiritual master of all the Brijvasis. And I mean, we've got a way to go before we come to when he leaves this world. But when he passed away, all the men in Vrajmandala shaved their heads. That is the common practice when the father passes away. The sons shave their heads. You may have seen, there's a well-known photo of Srila Prabhupada with other family, a few family members, and it's his father's just passed away, and they're observing his passing away. And Prabhupada is shaven-headed, because that's the way it works traditionally. So yeah, when he finally passed away, so, later, all the men shaved their heads, because they all considered him to be their father and their spiritual master. So, right, here let's have a few stories. Sanatana Goswami, one time, when he was on Vrajmandal Parikrama, he went to Gokula across the Yamuna from Mathura across and down to the south a little bit is the Gokula area where Lord Krishna was taken to from Mathura, from the prison house. He was taken to Gokula the night he appeared. So Sanatana Goswami was down there on Parikrama as usual, and he saw some boys having a ball game. And he's watching them, and he noticed one boy was particularly dark-skinned. Generally Indian people are, relatively somewhat dark-skinned. This boy was black-skinned. When I say black, I mean the color of Vrajendrananda Prabhu's t-shirt. That's black, you see. That's actually black. Yes. He noticed one of these boys playing the ball game is just black. And then he understood, this is actually Krishna. This is Krishna himself. So when they finished the ball game, followed Krishna back home. They crossed the Yamuna and went into Mathura town, Sanatana Goswami following him. And he saw Krishna, actually Madan Mohan, that particular form of Krishna, went into the house of one Brijbasi Brahmin family. The family name was Chobei. So, and in the house, Sanatan saw that Krishna was playing around with the other children, and it was very informal. And he had been out playing the ball game earlier across the river. So Sanatan went and spoke with the father, Chobei, and said, you know, this boy here, this is not just some child, this is Krishna. This is the Supreme Lord. You can't have him just running around like this and getting dirty and getting pushed around by other children. You have to put him on the altar and worship him and offer him special foodstuffs and all that sort of thing. And Chobei said, oh, really? Oh, all right, I'll do it. So he put Madan Mohan on the altar, dressed him up nicely, and they made a special food offering. And so Madan Mohan, Krishna, is now standing on the altar, but not looking very happy. That night, Sanatan Goswami had a dream. Madan Mohan, Krishna, appeared in his dream and said, listen, I don't want to stay here in this house, just standing here. It's so boring. I want to come with you on parikrama. So the next morning, Sanatan Goswami went back to the house of Chobei, and Chobei had had the same dream. So Chobei let Madan Mohan go with Sanatan Goswami. But before they left, Sanatan Goswami said to Madan Mohan that, you know, I lead a very simple existence. I just walk around, and wherever I end up at night, I just stay there, and eating just whatever food comes my way, I eat. And nothing like what you'll get in this house here. So you sure you want to come with me? And Madan Mohan said, yes. I just want to come with you. And I don't care, I'll accept whatever you offer me in the way of food. And Sanatan Goswami said, all right, but if you ever complain to me about the food that I'm offering you, I'm bringing you straight back here to Mathura, to the house of Chobei, and I'll just leave you here. And Madan Mohan said, no problem. So Madan Mohan would travel around with him on parikrama. But one night, when they were staying in the area of the current day Vrndavan town, and indeed where the old Madan Mohan temple is situated, overlooking the Yamuna River. So they were staying there one night. Madan Mohan was hanging in a tree. Sanatan Goswami went out to beg some food, but all he could get was some flour, some chapati flour. That was it. And he had a little bottle with Yamuna water. So he mixed together Yamuna water with some of this flour and then formed it, the dough, into balls and threw the balls straight into the fire, directly into the fire. And after couple of minutes or whatever it may be, he took the balls out, broke off the black layer of crust around the balls, and in the center was a little bread ball, which they call bati. And then he offered the bhati to Madan Mohan. It's just flour and water. Full stop. So he offered it. And Sanatana Goswami picked up one and looked at it. And he said, you know, Madan Mohan said to Sanatana, took a nibble, couldn't I at least have some salt with my bhati? And Sanatana Goswami said, I knew you were going to complain. I'm going to take you back to the Chobe family in Mathura. There you'll get nice deep-fried sabji with puris and rasmalai and all that sort of thing. So that'll be more suitable for you. But Madan Mohan said, no. I'll take my bhati with no salt, but I want to stay with you. So like this, Sanatana Goswami became the famous worshipper of Madan Mohan. Now, devotees, we are going to carry on a bit further. Well, we'll have to continue tomorrow even, but I'll tell you at least one more story tonight. This is a famous story of Sanatana Goswami, and with Rupa Goswami involved also. So Sanatana Goswami at that time was living at Shamakund, just on the banks of Shamakund, right where Shamakund, almost right where Shamakund meets Radhakund, just right that area if you're familiar with it. So, and his Bhajan Kutir is there to this day. So there he was. One day Srila Rupa Goswami came with a manuscript. And he said, I have just written this one poem. It is called Chatu Pushpanjali. 4 handfuls, an offering of 4 handfuls of flowers for Krishna, for Srimati Radharani. And Rupa Goswami asked Sanatana Goswami, could you please read through this poem? And I'd like to find out what you think of it. If you feel it needs some alteration, some correction, or something like that, please tell me. And Sanatana Goswami thought, correct Rupa Goswami. What? No one can correct Rupa Goswami. Whatever he does is perfect. But just so he could read it and relish it, he said, okay, I'll edit it. And if I find anything that needs to be corrected, I'll make a note. And you come back in a few days and I'll give it back to you. So Sanatana Goswami started reading the manuscript of Chatu Pushpanjali. Right at the end of the first verse, there was a statement that Srimati Radharani has long black hair and she ties it in a single long plait down her back. And when Radharani walks, that long single plait, it moves. And when it moves, it looks like a black snake. Sanatana Goswami read that and he thought, what? Radharani? Like a black snake? How could he say that? That's not nice. Snakes are inauspicious. But he's Rupa Goswami. How could it be wrong? But how could he say such a strange thing? But he never says anything wrong. And he just didn't know what to do. So he didn't do anything. Rupa Goswami came back a few days later and said to Sanatan, so, have you finished editing the poem, Chatupushpanjali? And Sanatan said, well, I'm still working on it. And Rupa Goswami said, well, listen, can you please finish it quickly, because we want to publish it as just, like today, if we can, and distribute it. So Sanatan Goswami just doesn't know what to do. He really doesn't know what to do. So Rupa Goswami sat down in front of Madan Mohan and started chanting and waiting. Sanatan Goswami went out and sat on the banks of Shamakund. And he's looking out across Shamakund, and directly across, pretty much, from his place is an important ghat called Manasapavan Ghat. The ghat, the bathing place which purifies the mind. So he's just sitting there looking out across Shamakund, wondering, what on earth am I going to do about this black snake issue? Suddenly, some young village girls, like about the age of Gaurangi, 14 or 13 or 15 or that sort of age, they just suddenly appeared there at Manasapavan Ghat, and they started having a ball game, throwing the ball back and forth and catching it and throwing it and jumping and laughing and just having a great time together. And Sanatan Goswami is watching them, and you know what he saw? He saw a black snake was climbing up the back of one of the girls. It looked like that, and was going to bite the girl in the back of her neck. So Sanatan Goswami, he's across on the other side, like maybe not 50 meters, but 30 meters away. He jumped up and he shouted out, "Snake! Snake! Watch out, snake!" And the girls were shocked. "Where's the snake? Where's the snake?" "On her back! On her back, look!" And they looked on that girl's back, and they all started laughing and laughing. And they said, "That's no snake, that's her hair." And they just laughed and laughed. And Sanatan Goswami felt embarrassed. But then he understood, oh yeah, the single plant, it looks like a black snake. And suddenly, shoo, those girls vanished. Suddenly they just were not there. Not like they walked away quickly or something. Suddenly they just disappeared. And Sanatan Goswami understood that this was Radharani and the gopis. And they just wanted me to see and to understand that whatever Rupa Goswami says is right. And in this case, Haribol. We must try to set a world record for changing the battery microphone for the Guinness Book of Records. Okay, Haribol. Yeah, that was Radharani and the gopis, and they wanted me to see how whatever Rupa Goswami says is right. So then Rupa Goswami came and said, "Come on, you must give me this Chatupushpanjali. I need to take it. Please tell me what you think about it. And then I must take it. And Sanatana Goswami said, it is just such a wonderful poem. It is just perfect. And particularly the part about Radharani's hair, that it looks like a black snake, that was wonderful. It was just wonderful. So yes, you please take it. So yeah, that's the story of the black snake. Hare Krishna. Srila Sanatana Goswami King. Shri Panchatattva King. Srila Prabhupada King. Go Premanande.